everyone, and welcome back to part 3 of our series. We will be covering the topic of cause and consequence. So, historians are like detectives. They try to figure out what happened and why it happened, and what might have caused these events in the first place. So, when we're looking at the idea of cause and consequence, we can think of the Toronto Skyline. Now, let's for a moment think of the Toronto Skyline in the 1850s. The skyline was full of buildings that were only maybe 3 or 4 stories high at most. Now, when we think of the Toronto skyline today, we have skyscrapers that can be anywhere from 10, 20, 30, or more stories high. Why do you think that might be? Well, in the 1850s, we had to walk upstairs. Walking up 3 or 4 flights of stairs was doable, right? Even though we don't do that very much today. Now, if you have a 30-story high skyscraper, are you going to want to walk up that many stairs? Probably not.
It is safe to assume one reason why we have really tall buildings has to do with the invention of the elevator.
There are many other examples that you can use to demonstrate cause and consequence. You did not set your alarm for school and you were late. You did not study for your test. You failed. The food that you ordered was cheaper than expected. You ordered dessert. These are the easiest ways that we can demonstrate cause and consequence. Thank you for following along with part 3 of our series on cause and consequence. Stay tuned for part 4. We will be talking about continuity and change. Hi everyone, and welcome back to part 4 of our series where we will be looking at the topic of continuity and change. For the next little segment, we are going to be looking at 3 images from the museum's collection. Now, these images are 3 different schoolhouses, and we're going to be talking about which schoolhouse is the oldest and which schoolhouse is the youngest. Now that you've had a moment to look at the 3 images, let's put them in order of oldest to newest.
This school is the oldest based on the information in our records. Looking at it, we can confirm its age based on a variety of features, such as the wooden frame as opposed to a brick exterior and the simplicity of the design. As we move on to the next school, we see a lot of similarities, such as the bell tower in the shape of the windows, and the shape of the building. But we see changes, such as the use of brick on the exterior of the building, the chimney at the back of the building, and the oil tank at the side of the building, which was used for heating. The last picture shows major changes. Can you spot them? Apart from the bell tower, you might not even realize that this is a school. There are now 2 entrances, which we know is one for boys and one for girls. The shape of the windows has changed, as has the shape of the door and the floor plan of the building. There's also a date stone, which tells us the date of the school building. Although this building looks in bad repair, which might make you think it is older than the rest of the schools, it in fact was not. The picture was taken more recently, after the school fell into disrepair. This is an example of why you need to question the evidence that you have in front of you. Let's refer to the worksheet and try your own.
Now that we've had a chance to review the answers, did you get it right? What sort of evidence did you use to organize the photos? Let's use another example. So I want you to think about your home today in the 21st century and homes in the 20th century. Now, when we think about building materials, there's typically 2 that are used more often than not: brick and wood. These were used in both the 20th century and in homes today in the 21st century. Now let's think about kitchens and the way that we wash our dishes. At the beginning of the 20th century, dishes were typically washed by hand, just soap and water. Now, today in the 21st century, most of us have the option of washing our dishes in a dishwasher. Let's stop for a moment and think though. Those of you who use a dishwasher, how often do your dishes still come out dirty? I know mine do all the time. So we've got change happening at a rapid pace, aka the way we wash our dishes, and change happening at a very slow pace, aka building materials in houses. This demonstrates that changes can happen fast or slow. Changes can also be positive or negative. So that concludes part 4 of our series on continuity and change. Please stay tuned for part 5, where we will be discussing understanding ethical dimensions. So when I look at this topic with my students, they often have a hard time understanding what it truly means. Basically, we can break this down into a very, very simple idea, and that is, it's important to do your due diligence and get all the information that you can about a topic before formulating an opinion. This is because we all have different ideals and worldviews. Let's look at the example of 13-year-old students around the globe during the time of World War II. If we were to ask a student in Toronto, Ontario what their life was like, they would give us a very different answer than that of someone in London, England, in someone in Paris, France, or in someone anywhere else around the world. This is because every person has their own individual worldview and experiences. Depending on the types of books and articles we are reading, we might have heard phrases like, "the evidence suggests," or "according to my research," or "our findings show," etc., by historians. This is because we will never know all of the information surrounding a specific event or a person, but we can do our part to get as much information as we can on the subject. It is important that we are aware of our personal biases and that we do not let them cloud our judgments. This concludes our 5-part series on historical thinking concepts. I hope these videos have provided you with the tools that you need to conduct your historical research in the future. Thank you!